I would cry if my carpool was late to pick me up. And I would, Mom, can you please call them? They're late. And people asking you, oh, are you going to go on to be the Olympic champion now? And, you have pressure from sponsors, you have pressure from, your coaches. And it was not an easy decision to make. Growing up, I always had, these two major goals in my mind. One was to be an Olympian and the other one was to be a college gymnast. Because I had to get up so early, I did fall asleep in the majority of my classes that year.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to Redirected. My name is Andrew East, and this is a show where we talk about how to make it through life's unexpected events. We all go through them, but how to successfully maneuver through them is a different task altogether. Today we sit down with an absolute legend, Olympic gold medalist and the newly named head coach of Arkansas Gymnastics, Jordyn Wieber. She's just 23 years old and has experienced some truly amazing things in life, but also some awful things. And she's going to talk about how she made it through those to be where she is today. I'm so glad to call her a friend. I'm honored that she took the time to be on my podcast, and I think you're going to love this one with Jordyn Wieber. Jordyn Wieber, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I would like to first just personally congratulate you and welcome you to the SEC.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Woo pig suey.
That's right. That's what they say.
I saw you do. I was watching the interview of when you got hired and the whole chant. We don't have to do that live right now, but you're a natural at it. So I think you'll like the competition that you see down here. I'm a Vandy grad, so some deep SEC blood going there.
Yes, it's very exciting. I'm excited to be shifting into the SEC. It's obviously, a competitive conference, but it's unlike any other. So I'm excited to be part of it.
I'm excited to hear that story. And I do just have to tell you, as we start off here, I just have the chills. We've known each other, I guess, we don't know each other super well, but I guess we've been acquaintances for 5 years or so. And it's been so amazing to see you evolve and grow and just kill it. Like, you've continually impressed me. So
thank you.
Hats off to you. I would love if we could start off for you to tell us what your upbringing was like. I know you're from Michigan, but tell us about your family and all that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Michigan. I'm in a small town kind of near Lansing. So Michigan State University, that's kind of what I grew up around. I was born into a very athletic family. So my mom runs marathons still to this day. She's done multiple in her lifetime. My dad was a football player, growing up, extremely athletic. My older sister also does marathons. My brother was a quarterback of our high school football team, and my younger sister's also really athletic. So it was just kind of a thing where if you're born into the Wieber family, you're gonna be sporty. You're gonna do sports. Yeah. But I was kind of the first person in my family to do gymnastics, and I was the reason I got into the sport was initially my parents kind of noticed that when I was really young, I had these muscles like naturally at age 2. Like it was a kind of a weird thing. And they're like, she kind of looks like a gymnast. She's already muscular. Like, let's put her in it and see if she likes it. So that was kind of, the start of my gymnastics and athletic career. But I'm so blessed with a great family and hardworking parents. They supported me along my entire journey and still do, even post gymnastics. And I decided to go to college far away, but I'm still such a big family person and try to get back home as much as I can. But yeah, I did the whole gymnastics thing growing up, and that was my life. And there wasn't much else. There wasn't time to do much else. So gymnastics was my life.
Have you caught the marathon bug yet?
Oh no. No, so it's funny because, my mom's body type is like, she's got like the runner's body type. She's like real skinny and light and just natural for running. My dad is more muscular, strong. I totally got my dad's genes, which obviously helped me for gymnastics. But 3 miles is like a comfortable distance for me, and anything past that does not feel natural. I have ran a 10K, so that's the furthest I've ever run in a race. But maybe one day marathon, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Do you enjoy running? Do you enjoy like cardio or like more of the intense, like high interval and intensity training?
I enjoy cardio, but I like to do classes like Soul Cycle, Barry's Boot Camp, Orange Theory, those kinds of things. I find it, to be more interesting. I do like running because I like being outside, and I think it's really therapeutic,
Yeah.
especially when I'm stressed out. But, like I said, 3 miles is a good amount. 30 minutes does the job for me.
Do they have Soul Cycle in Fayetteville?
No, they don't.
Oh my, it's gonna be a change for you. I'm
I might
excited.
need to get a Peloton or something. I heard those are awesome and kind of the same idea.
Yes, yeah, I would definitely look into that. So from what I've gathered, athleticism isn't the only thing that runs in the family. It sounds like your whole family is pretty intense and competitive in everything they do. Is that true?
Yeah, you could say that's true. I might be the most competitive and the most intense out of everybody, but I guess you could say that's true. Yeah.
Was there some story that I heard about you being like a young gymnast and you being mad at your mom because you're late at practice, or is that how the story goes?
Yeah, I was a very intense child to the point where, I was, my mom would take me to doctor's appointments when I was, 2, 3 years old, and there would be little things that I would just, be so intent on, and the doctor would say, I think she's got like, something special about her, something unique. She seems very intense, like for a child her age, and then that kind of transformed into me being really intense about gymnastics, obviously, because that was my life, and got to the point where I was carpooling to practice because my parents work and couldn't drive me every day. And I would cry if my carpool was late to pick me up. And I would, Mom, can you please call them? They're late. But if we were late to practice, we had to climb the rope. But there's a big rope in the gym. I'm sure everyone can imagine. And if you're late, you have to climb the rope, and nobody wanted to climb the rope. So, I was very intense. But I just, I've always kind of been like that. Always been kind of detail-oriented, perfectionistic type. A little intense. I've loosened up a little bit over the years, but definitely growing up in gymnastics, I was intense.
Okay. Well, your gymnastics career was legendary. I was just talking to Shawn, and she was like reiterating, obviously you're an Olympic gold medalist, but she was like, Jordyn Wieber is a legend. So you were world champion at what age?
16.
16, world champion. Can you tell us some of the lessons that you learned from gymnastics, just to kind of briefly summarize your gymnastics career?
Yeah, I mean, I learned pretty much every lesson that gymnastics has to offer. I would say, the main ones. I've always been a goal setter, but gymnastics really teaches you. Growing up, I always had this goal of wanting to be an Olympian and wanting to go to the Olympics, but you can't go into practice every day just thinking, okay, I'm working towards the Olympics. I'm working towards the Olympics. You really can't think about the Olympics at all. And so I learned how to set these smaller, short-term goals, even more long-term goals that weren't quite the Olympics, like, getting a certain score. And it really taught me how to set goals for myself and work really hard to get them and have that motivation every day and fueling that motivation by my goals. So I'd say goal setting is one of the number one things. Obviously, it teaches you things like time management, hard work, discipline, all of that.
Yeah.
I've always said I think gymnastics is the number one sport to learn life lessons because gymnastics is so hard. I know you're a football player, so you might like put up a good fight about that one because my brother used to argue with me all the time about how football was harder than gymnastics. But I do think it's one of the best for learning life lessons because it's so challenging in so many ways. You have to be not only strong, but you have to be mentally strong. You have to be flexible. You have to be dynamic. You have to be powerful. You have to be all these different things at one time. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline. And now I'm able to take those lessons and directly apply them to my life after gymnastics. I think that's so amazing.
This is what's cool about you. And one of the things I admire is you're an Olympic gymnast. And for a lot of people, that event is the defining moment and a lot of times the peak moment of their life. But it hasn't been the case for you. I mean, you have accomplished like so many more substantial things since then. But I do want you to tell the story, and you mentioned this in one of your interviews, that you feel like your experience at the Olympics, you going in the all-around world champion the year before the Olympics, and then the whole thing that transpired at the Olympics really helped prepare you for who you are now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in life we all have these kind of expectations of the way things are supposed to go. And we, like I said, I talk about goal setting. We set goals. When I think back to my Olympic experience and going from being the world champion in the all around, and then that year leading up to the Olympics, it's full of all these moments of people asking you, oh, are you going to go on to be the Olympic champion now? And, you have pressure from sponsors, you have pressure from, your coaches. And I think as gymnasts, we naturally put a lot of pressure on ourselves too. So, all these dynamics were going on. And then I went to the Olympics and didn't even have a bad day. It just was not my best day, and finished fourth on the qualification day. And, people from the outside looking in thought, fourth place, that's pretty good. Fourth place in the whole world in the Olympics, not bad. But because of that rule where only 2 per country can qualify, I didn't even get a chance to qualify onto the all around. And to me, that was it was so devastating. I mean, to have such a big goal and a big dream, and not only that, but all the expectations and the pressure, it just felt like the world was crashing in. And then not only that, but 2 days later, I had to, put my own self aside and compete for the team, which, was sort of an innate response for me, because I've always been, for me, it's always been easier to do things for other people than it has been for myself. I've always felt more confident in team competitions than I did in individual ones. And I don't know what that is. It's just kind of how I grew up.
One thing that I talk about a lot, which I feel like is tragic, but also inherent in being an ambitious athlete in particular, is like this treadmill of goals that you have. And so here you are, the world champion in the all around, and people are automatically asking you, and maybe in your mind you're asking yourself like, okay, is the Olympic champion next? And I feel like that's, again, it's like you need to continually raise the bar, but at what point are you content in what you've accomplished so far,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And the weirdest thing is, now that there's been a few years since that experience, I look back and I don't even view it as a failure anymore. At the time, it felt like the biggest failure I could ever experience. And now, based on my experiences since then, I don't even really believe in the word failure, because every single thing I believe that we go through leads us on the path that we're supposed to be on. And, maybe it doesn't feel like that at the time, but everything that we go through, we learn something from it. We learn what not to do. We learn what to do differently next. And it really it creates something special inside of us. I think, having gone through that experience, it's prepared me to handle 99% of the other things that I've gone through in my life. And that is so amazing. And I wouldn't go back and change that experience for the world.
You get me pumped up, Jordyn. Gosh, preach it, girl. Gosh, that is such wise words. And I feel like one critical component that we might be leaving out, though, that you, again, have embodied very well, is when you do have what some people could call failures, like there is a point where you could say, oh, that's going to stop whatever progress I'm going to make for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of viewing that as a failure and like a hard stop, you said, okay, I'm going to have that shape me in a different way. And I'm going to use that as fodder to progress. So I just love that. And again, you get me pumped up. You did have can you talk about another obstacle that you overcame? I think you tore your hamstring and didn't compete for, was it 15 months?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, how do you as a gymnast not compete for 15 months and still bounce back like you did?
It's hard. I think, injuries are inevitable for any athlete in any sport. But that one was particularly difficult because, my hamstring, it pulled off of my butt bone essentially. And I would be driving home from practice and I couldn't even, it hurt to sit down. That's how bad it was. And, anyone who knows me as a gymnast knows I wasn't the most flexible. I was always one of the strongest, but flexibility was something that was really difficult for me. So I had to spend almost as much time stretching during practice as I did conditioning. And for a long time, and I did not like that. It bothered me. And I would sit in the splits and my coach would push me down and I would fight. I would almost tense up because it hurt and I didn't want to. And then after that injury, I really had to learn how to kind of switch my perspective on a couple of things. First, the amount of stretching I had to do, I learned to relax into it and not fight it so much, which is hard to do. And the second thing was I had to learn how to attack my weaknesses. When I was injured, it was my lower body, so I had to do a lot of bars, and bars was the hardest event for me. So since it was the only event I really could do, it gave me a chance to improve in another area. And I think anytime an athlete goes through an injury, I like to see it as an opportunity. Okay, what can you do differently now that you're restricted, or you have to modify your training to get better in some other area that maybe you didn't have time to focus on before? So I call it attacking your weaknesses. And I think, coming back from that injury, I was able to be a better bar worker because I saw it as an opportunity instead of a setback.
One of my least favorite things is looking at videos of gymnastics coaches stretching their athletes, like pushing them down as they're, oh my gosh, that's torture. I think that's some form of torture.
It really is. It sucks.
So when did you turn pro in gymnastics?
Right after I won the world championships in 2011.
Easy decision to make, or was there a lot of deliberation?
It was not an easy decision to make. Growing up, I always had, these two major goals in my mind. One was to be an Olympian, and the other one was to be a college gymnast.
Huh.
And after I became the world champion, I was getting all these calls from agents and sponsors, and they were wanting an answer. And on one hand, I saw it as an awesome opportunity because I would get to make money to do my sport and be able to do all these amazing things like commercial shoots and all these, get sponsorships. And at 15, that seemed really awesome to me. And then on the other hand, I would have to give up being able to do college gymnastics, which is something I really, really wanted to do. So it took a lot of, sitting down with my parents and kind of looking at, okay, they hadn't saved for my college education. I was pretty much banking on getting a scholarship. So, I had to think about, this is a huge risk. If I go pro and get injured the next day, I don't have any money to go to college. I didn't have that benefit from my parents. So it was really a risk, but, I believed in myself enough to take the risk. And, a big part of that decision was the fact that at the time UCLA was my top school, is my top choice. I was going to go compete there in college. And so I called the UCLA head coach, Miss Val, and said, if I decide to go pro and I take money, can I still come to school there and at least be a part of the team in some shape or form? And she said, absolutely yes. So that was kind of like the last thing I needed, was to know that I would still be able to have the experience that a college athlete gets, but not be able to compete and still be able to go pro and have all those opportunities.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you've ever felt like there is something that interferes with your happiness or is preventing you from achieving your goals, BetterHelp has online counseling that is there for you. BetterHelp offers licensed professional counselors who are specialized in issues such as depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, grief, self-esteem, and more. You can connect with your professional counselor in a safe and private online environment. Anything you share is confidential, and it is so convenient. You can now get help at your own time and at your own pace. You can schedule secure video or phone sessions, plus chat and text with your therapist. If you are not happy with your counselor, you can request a new one at any time at no additional charge. Best of all, it's a truly affordable option, and for redirected listeners, you can get 10% off your first month with discount code EAST. That's EAST. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/EAST. You simply fill out a questionnaire that's going to help assess your needs, and you get matched with a counselor that you're going to love. Again, that's betterhelp.com/EAST, and you will get 10% off your first month. Anyone who's had a migraine knows that they are the absolute worst. And if you've seen any of our most recent videos, you know that Shawn has recently been getting migraines, and they are no fun for her. They're no fun for me. But the good news is that now it's a little easier to treat your migraine from the comfort of your own home, thanks to Cove. Cove starts out with a simple consultation by a licensed physician, and then the prescription that they determine is best for you is sent directly to your door. After your consultation, your doctor creates and tailors your individual course of treatment. Cove then reaches out a few weeks after to see how you're feeling. Cove breaks down everything you need to know about migraines and migraine treatment. and a doctor who is licensed to practice medicine in the state that you live in will be the one who prescribes your monthly medication and oversees your progress. All migraine medication prescribed by the doctors at Cove is FDA approved. So if you suffer from migraines, the last thing you need is to have to wait to see your doctor. With Cove, there's finally a way to get the help you need when you need it. And when you use my special link, you'll get your first month of treatment for free. Go to withcove.com/east. That's withcove.com/EAST. Withcove.com/east. So from my understanding, you were like, what is it called? Setting boards and moving mats to be a part of the team, but you're also training for elite gymnastics. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So when I went in as a freshman at UCLA, I was still training in gymnastics. And there's all these rules with NCAA where I wasn't allowed to train with the team at the same time. So I would have to go in and practice at about 6 or 6:30 in the morning until the team got there at 8 or 8:30. And then at that time I would stop training and I was a team manager. That was the role that was available for the team. And so as a team manager, I was doing anything the team needed: setting boards, chalking bars, moving mats, making sure they all had matching clothes, getting pep talks to the girls, literally anything and everything the team needed to be successful that was in gymnastics. And at the time, I didn't really realize that wasn't something that Olympic gold medalists don't do. I didn't think of it that way at all. I just thought, this is my team. I'm going to help my team. And if this is the only way I can do it, I'm going to do it. And so I was kind of training and balancing that at the same time. And then at some point I decided to retire in my freshman year. And I just wanted to fully jump in with UCLA and be a college student and kind of have that normal experience. And it was time to close that chapter in the book. And then I fully embraced that role of being a team manager for the following 2 years after that.
First of all, I'm not sure I would have woken up before 8 a.m. as a freshman in college had I not had like a coach writing me all day, every day about doing morning workouts. Did you have a coach out there?
Yeah. I mean, the coach
Okay.
would come in. Sometimes the girls on the team would come in and kind of be with me. But I have to admit, it did, because I had to get up so early, I did fall asleep in the majority of my classes that year.
Yes.
I'm proud of that. Still passed, but it was hard for sure.
Gosh. Are you aware of any other elite gymnasts who did what you did?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, one thing that I thought was important about your story too was you mentioned the decision to retire came after you no longer had a goal that you were chasing after. Talk to us about the psychology of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I talked about this before, but goals were always the thing that motivated me every day and it kept me going. And, gymnastics, like I said, is so hard. It's nearly impossible to get yourself motivated if you don't have a goal.
Yeah.
There's so many, pieces of the puzzle when you're in gymnastics. Like I said, strength and flexibility and the skills and you're dealing with injuries and all of that. And I found myself when I was at UCLA already and having to get up that early and train, I found myself just kind of going through the motions. And obviously I felt like I had something else to prove based on my Olympic experience. And I felt like I wanted to make another Olympic team so I could come back and be the all-around champion. And after getting to college, I started to realize, that wasn't as important to me as I thought it was, which eventually led me to the perspective I have today of not even viewing that as a failure. So when I lost that desire or that sense of I need to come back and be the all-around champion, when I lost that, then I realized, okay, it's time for me to close that chapter and move on to the next thing. And I'm so glad I did it when I did it because, I've gotten the chance to experience life that doesn't involve training. And that's a really hard transition for a lot of athletes. It's hard to give up the sport that we've done since we were 3-4 years old. It's not easy for anybody. But I was lucky that I had that kind of natural transition of still being in the gym, but not training. So that's kind of how that whole process worked.
Why did you study psychology at UCLA?
that was, my psych major was hugely inspired by my experience in gymnastics. I, at a young age, started watching sports psych videos, reading books about the power of the mind, visualizing a lot, just kind of, firsthand understanding, how I can use my mind to help myself prepare for competition and compete under pressure. And so originally, when I first went to college, I was going to be a sports psychologist. And then that kind of transformed into, okay, I want to be a leadership coach. I want to work in the business world and coach, executives and CEOs on how to be great leaders. And that kind of transformed into, for a while, I wanted to be a therapist, and then now a coach. But, I love learning about people and the way people think and why they behave the way they do, why they react the way they do. I think it's fascinating. I love psychology even now that I'm done with school. And it was just, I wanted to study something that was interesting.
So you transitioned from being a team manager to an assistant coach. What did you were in charge of floor mostly, from what I understand, during, by the way, an epic period of UCLA gymnastics where I feel like every day there's some new viral clip of somebody at UCLA doing a floor routine. What did you learn as an assistant coach?
Yeah, I didn't want to be a coach ever until I started coaching college. Loved college gymnastics. And I was, my first question to Miss Val was, okay, what do I do when I don't know, when a girl's landing on her face and I don't know what to tell her? She's like, no. Like, majority of the time, if someone's falling on their face over and over again, there's not a single technical correction that you can give them that will fix it. Usually it's something going on up here. So combining that with what I've learned in psychology, it's allowed me to view coaching in a different light. Coaching is not about technique. It's not about the actual skills. It's about motivating people to change and motivating people to want to make changes in their life and in their gymnastics and eventually reach their own goals. So I've learned everything about coaching, from UCLA, and it's led me to where I'm at now. Coaching is one of the best careers, I think.
So I had the pleasure of watching you coach at a couple meets, and you mentioned that some coaches view that motivation as being like really hard and like the cold driving force, but your approach kind of sounds like you want to bring a more well-rounded, balanced approach to coaching, but still maintain that discipline. How are you doing that?
Yeah, I think, I think about why we do the sport of gymnastics, or why girls do the sport of gymnastics, is because they love it. That's why anyone does any sport. It's for the passion. And I don't ever want to push somebody or an athlete so far to the point where they don't enjoy it anymore. So to me, there's kind of that balance as a coach of, setting really high standards and expecting a lot out of the athletes, and pushing them to work hard and reach goals, but not pushing too far to the point where they don't enjoy it anymore. So I think, as a coach, I have a style where I come from a place of, I've been there. I've gone through these same things not too long ago. And this is how it felt for me in relating to them on a personal level. And I feel that if I can help build their confidence, then they can accomplish anything. They can accomplish anything on the competition floor, and then they can go into their lives after college and accomplish anything. And I really think it all starts with confidence. So that's my goal, is to kind of find that balance, but at the same time, just daily building their confidence in any way that I can.
Wow. Can you tell us the story, with as much as you want to, or you can, of how the head coaching job at Arkansas came to be? Because you're 23 years old. How does one even achieve what you just did?
Yeah, so I've been coaching at UCLA for the past 3 years, and about, I would say, after the first year, maybe into the second year, I started to realize I wanted to be a head coach someday. I kind of thought it was more far off into the future. I thought, I'll probably be an assistant coach for a while, learn as much as I can, and then go on to be a head coach. And then this past year, I knew that Mark Cook, the head coach at Arkansas, was retiring, and I thought, okay, I'll apply. I'll see if, I can get the job. And the more I thought about it, the more prepared I felt and the more ready I felt to take on that challenge. And I'm not the type of person that's going to act like I know what it takes to be a head coach. I'm still learning every single day. I'm learning 10 new things. And that's one of the number one things I said in my job interview is that, I can guarantee you that I'm not going to know everything, but I'm going to do everything it takes to figure it out. And I've always kind of, lived life that way. It's like, if there's something I don't know how to do, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to work hard at it. And so, when they offered me the job, it was obviously, yes, I'm going to take it because it's in the SEC. It's an amazing program. Mark Cook has done an incredible job so far. He started the program and built it to where it's at now. But I also saw a lot of potential in the team. And I see that, with some things dialed in here and there with, consistency and strength and conditioning and the skill level, that they can be a national championship winning team. So I see that potential, and I'm excited to be in Arkansas and build my own legacy as a coach and build this program up and help as many student athletes as I can.
I'm so excited to be at the front end of the impact that you're going to have there. And just like, you already know when you have a conversation with Jordyn Wieber that you're destined for great things. And like, every time we talk, I feel like you're just chasing after that, and it's fantastic. I'm getting the chills as we talk, because I was watching, what was it, like a 4 years later thing on YouTube, and at the very end, Miss Val says, "I think that Jordyn will be the head coach, maybe even at UCLA in like 15 years." But like, bottom line is, this was taken like 5 years ago, and fast forward, here you are as the head coach of Arkansas. And it just seems like you've not only had wonderful people in your life, but you've also done your best to invest in them, and that investment has been returned to you. So hats off to you.
Thank you.
Okay. What goals do you have now, Jordyn?
Okay. So I would say, is there like a certain number I need to give, or just like goal? Okay.
No, it's open-ended.
I would say, my number one goal is to impact the lives of the athletes that I coach, as many as I can and for as long as I can. That's why I coach. I want to help other people, and I want to help these girls reach their own goals. So, I'd say that's the biggest goal, is to impact the lives of the girls on the team. Another big goal is to win a national championship with Arkansas. I understand that's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take, a couple of years of rebuilding and figuring out, how to run a gymnastics program and, get the right staff in place to help me do that. So I don't know how long that goal will take, but, I hope, less time is better. I want to win national championships as a coach. What else? Those are kind of the main ones, but I think to continue to surround myself with the people that I have the past few years. I've been so fortunate to have great people in my life and great family and great mentors, and so to continue doing that.
Yeah, that's great. What are 3 takeaways that you've learned over your journey that might apply to the broader audience?
I would say the first one is surround yourself with people that are going to build you up and help you and motivate you. I think, as young people, it's easy to just hang out with the people that we like hanging out with and people that are fun. But, I've chosen over the past few years, especially, to surround myself with people that are going to give it to me straight, tell me like it is, support me, but also, give me advice and give me real, honest advice when I need it. I think that's the number one thing, is to find who those people are and hang out with them and talk with them often.
Yeah.
I would say the next piece of advice would be to put yourself in uncomfortable situations as often as you can. I think that's the best way to grow. I mean, when it comes to your career, when it comes to, challenging yourself in school and all of that, that's what I mean. The best way to grow and the quickest way to grow is to is to become comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think in the end, when people ask me, why do you feel prepared to be a head coach after only 3 years of volunteer coaching? And I tell them I made the conscious choice, especially over the past year, but definitely over the past 3 years, to constantly challenge myself and put myself in uncomfortable situations. And that's how I learned, because I learned by actually doing it. So that's the second one. Another takeaway, I think, gosh, it's so hard to choose. I think just knowing that, when I talk about resilience earlier, I really feel like being in a sport like gymnastics, every single time, like I said, I fell off the beam, had to get back up, or experienced a failure, had to get back up. I was slowly building, my resilience. And I think a good takeaway for everybody is just to know that you have the choice to be resilient. You may not have control over the things that happen in your life. You may not have control over results or scores or events that happen, whatever they may be, but you do have a choice in how you respond to everything. And I think we have to constantly remind ourselves of that, because it's easy to feel victim to the circumstances in our lives. And for me, what happened in the Olympics, it would be easy for me to still feel like I had failed, but I had a choice in how I responded to that. And I chose to view it differently. And I chose to view it as a situation that's going to make me resilient for the next situation when something happens, because it will happen. So I'd say that's the third takeaway is just understanding we all have a choice in how we respond to things.
Jordyn, I love your story. Thank you for sharing it. When I think of the word perseverance, I think you will be the person that I think of. When I think of the word resilient, you will be the person I think of. Thank you for embodying that. Thank you for all you're doing for the sport of gymnastics. And Arkansas couldn't have got a better head coach. So I'm super pumped for you and what you're going to do down there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, Jordyn. We'll talk.
Thanks for having me.
If you haven't yet, please make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and leave a review if you feel called to. It really helps the show out. And I love having a new audience. I love hearing what you guys think. And I love having you come back every single week.